Hello everyone and welcome back to Chaosville, here with your master of horror for the evening, lying in bed once. So, I am stood atop something. You can't quite tell what it is, but those of you who've probably looked up the build that we're working on today will probably have an idea. So I am stood on top of Sadako's well. It's got the covering on it at the moment, it's a little broken into because I have to have an access route. And surrounding me in this very damp witchwood forest, I have a golden chalk circle. Also, if you're looking at Whaley, you can probably see some of the things around here are written in Japanese. I'm just trying to kind of force myself to learn the alphabet a little bit, along with some lessons I'm taking elsewhere, just so I can get... Language is a lot easier to learn if you're actually using it on a regular basis, so having it in Whaley is a bit of a hand there. So, for example, I noticed one thing, like, if I look around at the stone, stone has, like, an interesting symbol there. You see that first symbol? The box and the lines for one box and divining rod, I'm going to call it. That's very much wrong, but I'll call it that for now. That appears in both. That appears in stone, cobblestone, and coal. I presume there's significance to that. I haven't yet found out. But anyways, I've got a new distillery over here. This is not the same distillery from the cabin. I've got the altar that we used for summoning demons, and I've got this big white circle magic, which I've been using to duplicate waystones. There it is. So I've got 6 waystones that lead here, because, well, specifically that lead to inside of here. And I've been using that to go back and forth between the cabin and here, because a lot of my stuff is still over at the cabin. So the first thing we're looking at is a very useful item for when you're moving house. So if I just come down here first, I've got an alderwood door here. You place these down, you get a Rowan door, sorry. You get a Rowan door key, which is key to a specific door at a specific location, and you cannot open these. Not with redstone, not with anything. They're also, I believe they might even be, like, unable to be broken, normally. But if you have a key, no problem. So it's a fantastic little defensive system there. I don't expect I'll have to use that much, but I've already moved in a few things. So I've got my ender lily seeds. I put the smeltery back up, and I used that to make some end stone, which noticeably does not have that box and divining rod symbol for it, which I presume it has something to do with Earth. Which means these are now growing within a Minecraft week instead of a Minecraft month, which is good because I need ender pearls to make ender dew to duplicate the am I over here? Yeah, to duplicate the waystones. Got one down here just in case I accidentally use them all up. And you get that by putting a piece of obsidian in a casting basin, and then putting a liquid ender, which you get from melting down ender pearls, on top of it. And that will get you end stone. I think GNR showed that off. But for moving house, I've got 2 ender chests. So here is one. It's got cyan, blue, cyan as my code. And inside I've got some stuff. I need to move that stuff over into, say, this diamond chest where I've got all of my valuable materials. Problem there, I don't have any pipes or engines, and I kind of want to keep this kind of compact as much as I can. So, to resolve that problem, if I pick this up, I have these. These are item translocators. You shift-click them onto chests, and they have a little filter in them if you want to only work with certain items, and they have this other selectable section. So in here we've got some of the goods that need to go into this chest, so that is out, and this needs to be in. Look at that! And I believe this was made for Mod Gem, and it's very cool. Works very nicely. It's relatively cheap. The translocators aren't exactly expensive. So if I pick those up, there we are. And you can also do it with liquids too, which is really cool. Just most expensive things like gold and maybe a piston or an ender pearl, and you get 2 of them, so you automatically get a matched pair. Very cool, very handy. And there's also some stuff in here, so how would I go about it? This is, as you know, these translocators only work within that 1 block space. So, to counter that, I'm just going to shift that over. Plug those in. I have a chunk loader, or a world anchor rather, over at the cabin at the moment, serving for when I'm wanting to shift things out of certain chests into the ender chest on that end. But that is of course not in use right now, because I've emptied out my valuables chest. Okay, and that is now empty, so we can pick this up. Pray it doesn't fall into the ender lilies, as I realized when I put this down the first time. And get it back. And all of the goods are in there, so, once more, out there. So just on the other end of the cabin, I've got an ender chest which is having things pulled into it, like we just had there. And then on this end, I'm just attaching it over here, so it works wonderfully. It's very quick, and I can tell it to suck out certain things. More expensive than a wooden pipe, and it would have to be said, but it's a lot smaller than a wooden pipe and an engine and all sorts. So I would say wonderful, very handy. So you may notice I've got a slag furnace here, which has a very evil face when it's being cooked, and I also have this new item, which is a Leiden jar. It's sort of a new battery for factorization. That is because, to my knowledge, the still most efficient and effective way to get the most out of your ores is factorization, where you can potentially triple them, as opposed to double them. Ishni Sanchi Rock. Letting my numbers there. So I kind of want to start using... we've had our starter house. The cabin was basically our starter location. You had food available abundantly underneath the car and around the forest, you had a place to sleep, you had starter materials and all sorts, and you had the tools to make it quick and easy to actually progress. So now we're going to industrialize. Now we're going to get things running a bit better. So this is sort of the first area where we're going to start getting industrial, where we're going to start getting things that are more complex and higher tiered, and things that are automated as well. So with that in mind, let's take a look at factorization. Factorization has more or less one source of power that I'm aware of. It may have changed more recently. So the one source of power it has is, if I can spot them, because for some reason my overlay goes a bit weird here. Stamper, no. Ah, here they are, mirrors. Now, mirrors are made from a lot of silver and a glass pane, and you have a bunch of those put up around a water boiler. Fairly cheap to make, and it sucks up water from beneath, so you can just have a 3x3 pool and it will be always constantly supplied. That creates steam. You then need to feed that into a steam turbine, which is rather more expensive, and that will generate charge, which is factorization's mode of power. So if you have like the Minecraft joules, and you have the electrical units of industrial craft, and you have the universal electricity of stuff like mechanism, this is it. This is charge. This is factorization power. So you get that power, and you pump that through some lead wire into, say, a furnace heater, and it will power your slag furnace without you having to add fuel. Downside: mirrors need to have a direct source of sunlight, and that is a bit tricky when we're trying to keep this place to a certain specific design, which means the majority of our stuff is going to need to be underground, because there isn't anything around Sadako's well. It is lonely, forlorn, and abandoned. And I'll get to exactly more on Sadako in a little bit more. Then there's things like the logic matrix. I have like 6 of these, because you find them in dungeons, that are used for making these different identifier pieces, which are used for making these different upgrades for routers, which you possibly remember from last season. So those can take items and shove them into any number of storage units, or extract certain items from those storage units as well. So you can use those to really compartmentalize and slim down your sorting machines as well. Very helpful if you're doing stuff with AE, for example, because you then have 1 point in, 1 point out done. And then you have this thing called a grinder, which is the old version. As I said, it's deprecated for lacerator. The way that factorization does its machines now has changed a lot. So here we have a socket block. Onto this, you apply things like let's see, where is the lacerator? If I can find it. Silver rail? No, we'll get that in a second. Light air? No. I cannot remember what the lacerator looks like. There it is, lacerator. So the lacerator is made with a diamond cutting head and a motor. Not exactly cheap to make. And you attach that to a socket block, supply it with some power from the charger, such as using the batteries, which are down here, or the Leiden jar, and it spins, and it breaks things, and you can then apply it with the servo rail, and a servo, which is, let's see, it's somewhere nearby, robotic arm, I don't think that's it. Servo, these are not intelligently organized, there we are, servo. which requires dark iron. A lot of this is going to require dark iron, which means I need to make a RAF igniter going away stick. You can find dark iron ore, which you are going to need, but you can also create dark iron from RAF igniting iron blocks. So that's the main way of getting it. And that is probably what we're going to look at now, because I have not found any dark iron ore. So let's see, we need... Is that a nether brick? That is a nether brick. Good. So let's see, nether brick. That is what that says, translated to English roughly. Now the diamond block shard, that requires is it a stamper or a packager? It's a very specific recipe that isn't listed. I believe you need a stamper to start it off, so we're looking at a piston and a crafting table. Unfortunately, I've already brought our wood over. So let's ask crafters to give her that. And I also have a bunch of stuff. This, by the way, this does go down to bedrock at the moment. It goes down to, I believe, layer 7, which is right where the bedrock starts. You can see it starting there. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill up the sides here, so that there's a full well. We're going to replace all of this sand and sandstone and ores and stuff with stone or disordered bricks and such. And then we're going to use obsidian TNT, which is very powerful compared to regular TNT, but it requires 3 TNT to make, and 6 obsidian. There she blows from mechanism, but it makes a big bang. It clears out a large area, so we'll be using that to make a fairly sizable cavern down here, which means we may need to automate the production of TNT and obsidian at a later point in time. But let's see, we need 4 stone. You can see we've got the divining rod and the box symbol there. I presume that first symbol means cobble, or fractured or broken or something. Again, I'm very new to learning Japanese, so I'm not going to be an authoritative source on that for some time. Okay, so that will get us our piston. Simple enough. Doop 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 doop. And there, and that is not where my broom goes. Hey, I have to say that the server has been lagging a little bit in the past hour or so. It's gotten a lot better, because it was originally lagging because Gar was messing around with Mistcraft and generating entire new worlds. Let's see, and then I believe we need a stick. Do I have any sticks just lying around? No, it does not appear to be so. I'd probably use them all to make torches, for which I have quite a need for. I should have brought some glintweed. I have stacks upon stacks of glintweed. I should have brought some. Okay, and... Nope, still being weird. Okay, and that gets us a stamper. This, to my knowledge, does not require power, but this is what you need to create your diamond shards. So the next thing we need is the packager. Okay, and that requires 2 iron and much the same kind of stuff. So let's grab that again. Doop doop. And get our crafting table portion of that going already. And we need... What are you doing in there, gunpowder? That's not where you go. Gunpowder goes in here. There. Then we need another bit of iron. I have been using the smeltery to generate doubled ores, but I'm not really... I kind of think I want to have the smeltery be more of a utility machine than anything else. I want it to be not used for generating ores so much as it is used for just getting certain specific items that you can't get elsewhere, like aluminum brass. But for now, it is my way of doubling ores. And okay, another piston. And we have our crafting table, and we have our iron. So, doop, 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 doop. And that gets us our packager. So, the packager requires that you make a certain packet. Or is it the stamper? You can make craft packets. Now, the trouble is, these aren't listed. So, I may have to go away for a moment and find out how... Well, remember how to do that. It's my constant battle of memory. And it's made all the harder by trying to learn a new foreign language. But yeah, I highly recommend learning new languages, because they're always fun, and it's interesting to expand your vocabulary for that way. For example, ich heiße Tim. Ich bin 23 Jahre alt. Ich spreche Englische und Deutsche. This is me trying to remember whatever has stuck in my head from years ago of my German classes at school. But I quite routinely pepper my language with German and other languages, so it's nice to have. And also, I picked this specific point in the well to start making my home because there's this sand that's really easy to clear out. But eventually, I shall clear out this sort of staircase I've got going here, and then I will be, once I've cleared everything out of the cabin, I'll be able to probably remove my, well, set my recall point to, say, the surface here, and then I can jump down and just teleport to here. But I have a plan specifically for that cover, because that cover should make this place basically inaccessible normally. It's only such as at night that the cover shall move away and people may enter to fight whatever bosses they wish, or possibly face their dooms either way. And that is going to involve, let's see if I do that. Nope. Force. This is going to bring up a ton of stuff. Okay, there we are. Force a field. Beep beep beep. There. Okay. So, what we're going to need for that is the Force Manipulator, and this is a block from the modular force field system, which allows you to shift sets of blocks, one block at a time, so we need about 3 or 4 of them per direction, and they're going to need power from a Fortron capacitor, which is very much a little bit on the expensive side of things. Like that gets you 9 focus matrices, and you've noticed they use a lot of steel as well. And that needs a coercion driver to provide it with power, because that's basically a battery. And then we need all these other stuff to, like, specifically tell it what stuff it should be doing and such. So it's a bit of a ways off. We need to get power first, really. Anyways, where was I? Okay, so the Stamper needs a craft packet, and a craft packet requires that you combine certain things, and I don't really remember what they are. So let's move on to another subject, which is, last time I talked about the principles of horror. That is to say, the elements of a horror movie that are commonly found and are used for the purpose of generating a fear response. The sensation of being terrified and such, which is what you look for when you go to a horror movie. And for some reason sand isn't translated in this. So how does Sadako and the Ring apply to that? Well, Sadako herself is an element of the unseen. You see her very briefly inside of the VHS tape that harrows her curse. You see her at the end, right as she kills you and you die of fright 7 days later. So she's an example of the unseen there. She also strictly sticks to dark areas and such. And then she is most noticeably an example of the inevitable. You cannot stop Sadako coming for you. She always gets you. There is one, like, if you watch her tape and you then go to a cabin, she comes out of the windows, she comes out of the mirrors. There's one fantastic example in the novel where a motorbike driver watches the video, and 7 days later he's just out for a ride on his bike with his helmet on, and it's not entirely clear what happens next, only that he begins to swerve off the road, crashes, and is then found with his face in the typical grimace of terror that Sadako tends to inspire in her victims. The implication is that she came out of the mirroring on the interior of his visor. You may see a pattern here. Sadako, there's a lot to do with the Ring that's to do with metaphor and analogy and such. So, at the bottom of the well there is water. The water casts a reflection. Within that reflection, you find Sadako. Sadako can come out of any reflective surface. She generally comes preferentially, I suppose I might as well say, from televisions, but by and large, she can come out of any reflection. In theory, she can come out of your own glasses. I suppose in theory she can come out of your eyes, but I haven't actually found a case of that actually happening in terms of the literature. So Sadako is the inevitable, because she is unstoppable, effectively. Or at least as near to unstoppable as a regular person is going to come. And she kind of plays on that interesting thing of she couldn't really happen at an earlier point in history, because here we are with all of our reflective surfaces that we just kind of take for granted. And it's really, really, really hard to pin down an exact way that you can escape her curse. There is one way that is known, and that is getting someone else to watch the tape before your 7 days are up. You have to inflict this curse that you are so terrified of on someone else, or she comes for you. That is the one known way of doing it. But in theory, you could break into Times Square in New York, get to like the big television screen controls, and play the VHS tape across the entirety of Times Square, and you would effectively unleash Sadako upon millions of people in a day. In fact, I think I've seen something like that. There was a plan at some point of someone, there was like an image of Sadako crawling out of the Times Square TV at some point. And there was actually a very interesting marketing campaign for the Ring 2, I believe, the original Japanese Ring 2, where they made VHS tapes, and they left them at various places around Japan, and they would show you the video that Sadako shows you, and then they would have like a little advert at the end for the movie. So it went very well with there's a very dense urban legend kind of fandom in Japan. So you get a whole ton of very creepy stories that get passed around, and Japanese mythology is replete with monsters just waiting for an urban legend kind of makeover. But we'll talk a bit more about that next time when I've got the craft packet and stuff sorted out, and we'll go hunting for Dark Iron. And I shall catch you all next time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and or a favourite. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe to be notified of future updates. You can also check out the website where most other content is uploaded. That's all for now. Catch you later.